Alright guys, I've been waiting to talk about this for a while, but the Christian Wilkins situation, what the heck? I thought more stuff was going to come out. No one really knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on. All I know is you kind of got a little bit crazy there in the locker room. And then he got cut. Like, bro, why are you doing that, Raiders? He's literally the best player on your team. I mean, there's McCarthy. But still, you get the point. Very bizarre situation. The injury, I don't know. That was a mess, too. Very, very bizarre, though. Just like this team. Yeah, we're doing the Vikings today. The second to last team. The next team is probably even more fascinating than them. But they have one question, and I'm going to answer it. Maybe. I don't know. Pretty bizarre team. Let's get into it. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Final NFL. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoy the Minnesota Vikings roster grade. This is a team that is very, 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 very talented with many, many, many good players. But they have one question, which I'm about to answer. Yeah, it's in the beginning of the thing. What would you expect that? But anyway, before we get to that answer, or not really because we don't know the answer to it yet, for sure, and probably don't know for like 2 or 3 years if we're being honest, unless something happens. If you have not watched past rosters, grades, again, this is the second to last one. There's going to be one coming pretty soon, not very soon, and the last team, I think you could probably figure it out by that. But anyway, before we get to that, just remember, that if you have not watched past ones, go watch the Titans one, which is the very first one. I think they did that all the way back in May. That'll give you a pretty good idea how this works. Things I didn't really talk about in that one is that, again, if there were 0 points for any position I give, which is an F grade, that's not good. And then also, again, like the Dolphins, 234 points is considered the baseline and average roster. And again, the way you get these points is there's these ranges that come from a very simple mathy thing where you take a grade, take the weight of the position, multiply that, and you get the points. Anyway, though, starting out with quarterback, as we always do, with J.J. McCarthy. He will be the starter for the Vikings, unlike last year where he tore his MCL or something like that and did not play at all. But the fact that coming into the NFL, I wasn't high at him really whatsoever. I don't think he was really that great of a prospect at all. And the fact that I took him at 20th overall, and I don't really see any sort of different development outside of the fact that he does have a little bit quicker of a release and his footwork looks a little bit better. He still doesn't really seem the guy to me that I really can trust to run an NFL offense, to be honest with you guys. His accuracy has never been really better than below average. He has really bad awareness and touch on the with the football. I don't know if it's two of the extremes in terms of touch to Michael Penix, who I think is very similar to him in the ways they are really regarded in my eyes. Outside of the fact that, again, Michael Penix is a much better arm. But JJ definitely can move around a little bit, but how does that really matter with his pocket presence still being a big issue and the fact that he still can't get through a 4-man progression while also, again, concentrating on what's going on in front of him. So for that reason, J.J. McCarthy's a guy that, again, he's definitely a mystery in a lot of ways for literally everyone because we don't know what he's going to look like. But from what I saw in college and from what I think of him as a player, not really going to look too great this season. With that said, though, wait for him to play for it to actually make a conclusion on that. Anyway, though, next up we got Sam Howell's backup. He has had his moments for sure. The one season he started with the Commanders, he threw in 6 or 12 passes, which is a boatload of them. And despite getting benched in like the last 3 games, he had a very wild season. He was completely all over the place in the first half. In the second half, he was absolutely awful. And last year with the Seahawks, he played a little bit in garbage time against the Packers in a blowout loss, but outside of that, he really hasn't got much playing time. For him, the biggest issue is the fact that he just doesn't always have the most consistent mechanics, and that really hurts him and what he's trying to do. Also, his release is very slow at times, and again, we all know he's not the brightest bulb either. Anyway, though, Brett Rippon, I'm kind of surprised he still has a job just because of how bad he played last time he got a shot to play in the NFL with the Rams. And then you got Max Brosmer, my bad, he might make this team. I think he can at least, read a defense and maybe run a little bit of play action. But outside of that, not much going on with him. But for the quarterback position, just because it is such a mystery with J.J. McCarthy, and I don't like him personally, I'm going to have to give them a D+ at this position. I'm being very cautious with this. I'd love to give him a lower grade because that is really where I do see him as an NFL player. But at the same time, we haven't seen him play, so I can't go gung-ho about that because that's just it's not a smart thing to do. So 15 points, D+, I think that's fair to say because, guys, even Vikings fans, you don't know how good he actually is. And from what I saw studying him at Michigan, did not look like the NFL quarterback that could really be anything more than, I don't know, maybe a below average or decent backup. That's where I see it, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, though, he's got a lot of good guys to throw to. And before we get into those guys he'll be throwing the football to, I mean, maybe he'll throw it to these guys. But, again, the running back room for the Vikings is a very fun group. First off, Aaron Jones. He is a guy that has been Mr. Consistent ever since he came in the league, mostly back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he didn't really do too much as a rookie. Again, he averages over almost 5 yards per carry on his career. But, again, looking back, 2017 was a very consistent season. Then 2018, I didn't love the way he played, to be honest with you guys. He kind of just seemed like a gadget, gimmicky sort of guy. But in 2019, he broke out with a 16-touchdown season. 2020, best year of his career up to this point. 2021, a little bit of injuries. Didn't really get the volume he would have wanted. Again, they really tried to push A.J. Dillon that season. 2022, monster season. Also was a solid receiver that year. But again, the past years, he has had a little bit. He had injury issues, I guess, in 2023. The volume went down a little bit last year. Even though, again, he did have a career high in carries in terms of like the purposeful carries was a little bit lower. But still, again, I guess career high in carries is the best way to put it. And again, he had a monster season overall. And he's a very consistent running back. He might not give you the high ceiling plays that he might have a couple years ago. He might not be the same receiver in a couple ways, but overall still a very, very consistent back, very, very savvy, and showed he can handle a workload of that magnitude last year, despite maybe not all the carries really giving me the eyes that he's a true workhorse anymore. But anyway, Aaron Jones is a really good running back, and again, a lot of teams would love to have him. Jordan Mason. A lot of people are going crazy about him. I'm going to try to temper the expectations because I don't think he'll be a guy that'll go out there and just absolutely explode and just blow huge holes, go absolutely insane. But at the same time, he's definitely going to be really good. Like that's just simple truth. Like in the numbers, they don't lie last year. If he didn't get injured, he probably would have ran for 1,000 yards, guys. Like he was that guy. His receiver as a pass protector isn't the most fantastic, but as a straight line runner, breaking tackles, getting through holes, he's one of the more projectable guys going into the season. The only thing is he probably won't be getting the total carries to really put up the numbers that he probably can. But again, I'm just trying to temper it because like there's definitely some things with him that aren't like the most good things going into a season. But at the same time, guys, Jordan Mason, again, if he got the carries, he's gonna like blow up. Anyway, though, Xavier Scott. He's looked awesome in camp. From what I've seen, also in the preseason, he looked really good. He's really made a name for himself. I didn't get to watch much film him at all at Maine, but this is a guy that I think is extremely talented. He's very fast for a guy that you really wouldn't expect for him to be, again, with his profile. But outside of that, guys, he's got a lot of speed. He's really shifty, and I think that'll really maybe give him a shot at getting a couple carries this season. More or less, though, probably a special teamer. But again, he's a dog, like for sure. And then you got Ty Chandler, who really hasn't lived up to expectations here with the Vikings, as his numbers have never really been all too fantastic, and he struggles to get out of the backfield when a concept doesn't always work out, or Kevin O'Connell might not be calling the plays specifically tailored to him. But for that reason, again, Xavier Scott, I'd probably give the shadow from at this point. He'll probably still make this roster because he's such a consistent player with this team. Again, in terms of like what you're going to see out of him, and he knows his system. But at the same time, Xavier Scott's probably a more talented player, to be honest with you guys, at this point in his career. Anyway, though, running back, I got to give a B+. I really like what's going on here. I get Aaron Jones what is he now, 30? I don't know if he's that old. Yeah, he's 30. And then Jordan Mason hasn't really been a true number one of full season of yet. But guys, this is like one of the more fun running backs rooms to look at. I'm not gonna give them an A tier because you know what? I'm gonna think I'll do it. I really like what's going on with the running back room with the Vikings. A-. Receiver is I want to say it's cut and dry, but it's really not. Justin Jefferson, if he's not the best, he's the second best receiver in football. He's been the best receiver through his first 6 seasons of his career up to this point, and it really hasn't even been that close. You're not going to get any better than him. That's the best way to put it. Jordan Addison, despite the suspension, he's a guy that runs very good routes, and I love the fact that he doesn't slow down when he changes direction as well. That is my biggest compliment with him. He's never going to get the targets. Like, guys, 108 targets isn't going to be what you need to really make a true impact as like a player that can really show as like a top 10 guy. But he gets in the end zone a lot because of the fact that, like I said, he does not slow down when he changes direction. That really helps out the fact that maybe not all his routes are always timed up the greatest. He makes up for that. And also the fact that, again, he is a downfield threat, not because of his speed, but the fact that he gets going quickly. And also the fact that he is pretty creative with what he does on his routes, even if they're, again, like I said, they're not always the most precise. I like his release package as well. Jordan Addison's a really good player. It's just the fact that, again, he probably won't ever get the targets with Justin Jefferson on his team unless he gets injured to really, really, really be that dude. But at the same time, really good first 2 years of his career. Maybe he gets 1,000 yards, probably not with the suspension. I don't know. Maybe he'll do it. We'll see. What is he on? Isn't it like... It's something weird. I think it's like, is it 2 games or 6 games? It doesn't matter. He'll play well when he's on the field. Jalen Naylor, he was a third receiver last year. Outside of that game he had against Green Bay, where he was getting open left and right, I didn't really see the player I wanted to see. As a rookie, he was somewhat impactful in the low number of routes he actually ran, and then 2023 got injured and just really wasn't looking too good. But last season, I did like the production he did put up, and on film, again, he was getting open a lot against Packers, but outside of that, really wasn't making a true impact. But at the same time, I think he's definitely a guy that could be a solid third option just because of the fact that he does have a good blend of physical, profile, and also, again, he's a faster dude as well. Outside, though, Lucky Jackson, completely honest with you guys, do not know who this dude is. Just don't. I'm sorry. Is it Tristan Jackson? Is that who it is? I have no idea who this dude is. I'm sorry. Never heard of this guy. Ty Felton, no. Thayer Thomas, no. I swear, isn't there someone else on this team that I'm just completely forgetting about? I thought they have someone for their fourth receiver. How am I forgetting about it? The rest of these guys probably will make this roster, but they really don't have anyone else off of Jalen Naylor. I swear they had someone else that I'm just not remembering. Is it Brandon Powell, maybe? Whatever. There's someone that I'm forgetting about, but outside of that, guys, this receiving room is absolutely cavernous. The top 3 is really good. That's why I got to give them a B+. But, guys, there is absolutely zero depth at receiver for this team. And I'm forgetting who it was. They signed someone. I'll look more into that later. But outside of that, guys, even if they had him, this is just such a there's literally if Justin Jefferson, they don't have a third receiver like that or a fourth receiver. That's simple. But again, with how good their top 3 are, I'm not really too concerned about that. 27 points. Tight end position, T.J. Hawkinson has had his injury issues the past 2 seasons. But when he has been on the field, he has been a really solid player. Last year, maybe taking a little bit of a step back in terms of actually being more of a downfield guy. But, again, like I said, so good as a receiving tight end. One of the more consistent guys in football when he is playing. And also as a blocker has developed pretty well as well. Again, never going to be that great with there, though. Even though, again, he's been a good player. I guess, technically PFF grades think he's okay, but it's not the greatest. Josh Oliver, solid backup tight end. Gavin Bartholomew, I'm kind of surprised he's still on this depth chart because isn't he out the season? I swear he got injured, right? Yeah, he had a really bad injury. Anyway, though, C.J. Ham's a solid fullback. Again, really good run blocker. This tight end room, I'm going to give them an A-. Again, just the injury history with T.J. Hawkinson is really the only thing holding it back. And I'm going to chuck C.J. Ham in there as a run blocking, schematic fit there. Anyway, though, let's look at this offensive line now. Okay, moving over to this offensive line that at times last year was phenomenal. Other times, not the greatest. But going into this season, you're going to be pretty happy about it. Yes, Christian Darrisaw should probably go on the PUP list for the first 4 games. Oh, yeah, by the way, for that receiver I was talking about, that was Rondell Moore. I kind of just completely blanked from my mind. That's really sucks. Again, Tim Patrick tore his ACL in 2022 and 2023 and did miss both those seasons. Rondell Moore, though, I'm wishing the best for you, bro. I'm praying for you. Hope you have a great recovery. Now this offensive line. Christian Darrisaw was probably on his way to winning Protector of the Year, if that was an award last year, before he tore his ACL in Week 8 on Thursday Night Football against the Rams. And again, I don't think he should be playing the first 4 weeks just because of the fact that he doesn't really seem like he's close to 100% yet. So for that reason, especially with ACL, take as long as you need, Christian. Get out there. I don't expect you to play at your best the first 2 or 3 games you're back, but again, if he's healthy, one of the best tackles in football. Justin Skoll, I like the fact that he's very consistent with how he approaches speed rushers because he knows that they can't overpower him just because of the fact that he has always been a guy that can maintain that. But against these more powerful guys who might even be explosive off the edge or even on 3-techs where he sometimes sees guys, he's not going to be very good. And even as a run blocker, he doesn't really have the prowess, in my opinion, to really see him being used in any sort of big time ways where a guy like Christian Darrisaw would be used. But at the same time, as a blindside guy, there's definitely worse guys to have as backups. Donovan Jackson, he wasn't my favorite guy out of the draft, but he was definitely a guy that I think could be a reliable player for them just because of the fact that he does move really well at that guard position and also should, again, project well as a solid pass protector despite maybe not being the most dynamic run blocker. Blake Brandel, he was solid for them last year when he played. There were definitely games where he got absolutely just schooled, but outside of that, he's definitely a guy that projects pretty well. Ryan Kelly's been one of the more consistent players in the entire NFL. Again, he's older now. What is he, 33? He's like old. Like, yeah, 32. But he'll still give you good play at center. Michael Juergens is a guy that I think could be a good backup at some point. Still needs a lot of work, though. Logan Brown. Did he play for Kansas? Yeah. He was not good from what I saw last year at Kansas. He definitely underperformed. But he's definitely a guy who's big and athletic. So, again, they're going to definitely chance on that. Will Fries had a great season last year. Still not a guy that I think will ever be that good as he was last year. I was just shocked. But, again, on film, it did stick, which was good. But I think, again, him being an advantageous in Indy last year situation helped him out a lot. He's still in one, so like don't really expect much difference. But yeah, I was actually pretty surprised at how well he played last year. But still, again, makes sense. He's very refined from what we saw a couple years ago. Anyway, though, Henry Bird, a little bit hesitant on if he can actually be an NFL caliber lineman. Walter Rouse, he's just not that quick. That's the best way to put it. His hands are pretty decent. He's not going to really get moved around like that. But again, if a guy gets the step on him, he's going to give up the pressure. It's just kind of simple like that. Brian O'Neill has been a solid guy his entire career now. The biggest issue has always been with him is the fact that there are games where he just completely gives up like 5 or 6 pressures out of nowhere, kind of like the rhythm breaks down. But outside of that, guys, he's a very good right tackle. Again, that's not like a good thing, obviously, but again, there's worse things to have as issues. But anyway, this offensive line overall, again, if Christian Darrisaw can become healthy at some point, will be a very, very good one. For that reason, I will give them a B+. You could argue A tier, or A grade, but I don't really think you can do that just with the uncertainty. The fact that outside of a guy like Ryan Kelly, there aren't like, you know what? That's not true. Ryan O'Neill will give that too. But this offensive line, there's just some things that I'm not like the biggest fan of. But overall, it's still a really good group. So that's going to be 18 points. You know what? Do I be nice and give him I think I got to give him an A-, guys. Like, this offensive line is going to be good this year. They were really good last year. Again, it's just like the Christian Darrisaw thing's a little bit hesitant. But they got decent depth, so that's going to come up to 112 total points for this offense. That will put them in the B- tier, which is where they do belong. If they had a quarterback that we really knew what was going to go on with, they'd definitely be higher because it's a very strong offense overall. With that said, though, let's get into this defense. Okay, and for this defense, we will start out with the D-line, then we'll get into the linebackers, then we'll get into the edge rushers. But starting out with this D-line, for the Vikings front seven, it is a group that has had 2 huge acquisitions, maybe like more of 2 or 3 years ago, but they're still very, very good players. Jonathan Allen won't give you the same efficiency as a pass rusher, but the fact that he can still give you a lot of good power penetration. And then again, at the same time, the pressure rate's always going to be good. And he, again, will give you, again, his specialty move is that cross chop and pin and pull and swim. Those things will still be there with him. Despite, again, only 8 games last season, he's getting older now at 30. And again, he really hasn't been a truly elite interior pass rusher, again, on a consistent basis since 2022. But again, really solid 2023 season. Again, again, he'll be a decent run defender, I think, too, because he's kind of started to integrate that more into his game in terms of, again, holding up on blocks. But yeah, Jonathan Allen is a really good player, all things said. But again, he's older, so maybe not going to see the same efficiency. We'll see, though. Levi Drake Rodriguez, not the biggest fan of him. He just doesn't really seem like a guy that gives you much outside of maybe an occasional pressure, and, you know, he'll stuff the run once in a while. Harrison Phillips has been one of the more underrated defensive tackles in football, or nose tackles, my bad, in football. He's a really boring player, but he's very, I don't even know, interactive is the best way to put it. He makes plays. That's probably the best way to put it. As pass rusher, he's very, very, very inefficient. He doesn't really have anything that really stands out, and the pressure rate is one of the more ugly numbers in football. But again, like I said, he makes plays as a run defender. He can make plays in open space, which is a little bit weird for him. But yeah, very solid nose tackle. It's kind of hard to run the football straight up against him. Jalen Redmond, do not care about him. Tyron Ingram-Dawkins, we'll see what happens. He has some good traits, but how much is that really going to make sense if he can't execute a decent bull rush down and down? Javon Hargrave, pass rush specialist. He will always be pretty awful against the run. He was bad with the Niners in the 3 games before he got injured last year. 2023 was a little bit frustrating because he was even worse than he was with the Eagles against the run. But he's going to give you a lot of good pressure just because of the fact that he has a very good speed to power and swipe move combo. Yeah, he's going to give you pass rush. It's pretty simple there. Outside of that, though, this D-line is older, but still will probably give you good numbers. So I'm going to say a B+. No, I'm going to say a B with this group because, yeah, you're betting on 2 old guys that aren't coming off injured seasons. The depth doesn't really give me too much. And then Harrison Phillips, again, really, really fun player, but he's not going to give you consistent pressure. So 16 points. But at the same time, that's like kind of being safer with, again, how their seasons went last year. Anyway, though, moving over to linebacker, Blake Cashman is one of the more competent ones in football. He rarely makes a big mistake in coverage. Yes, he's not really going to do anything sort of big, but he's going to stay in his zone. He's going to make sure everyone else is where they're supposed to be, and there's no big plays in his face. It's really like never happened. Tackle rate could be a little bit more consistent, but outside of that, guys, Blake Cashman is a very good football player. Across from his Ivan Pace Jr., not really, though, because he's kind of moved more to a will position in a little bit. Again, I know Jonathan Grenard's technically in that, but it's not really where it is, because there's a lot of plays where they ask him to make, again, a big sort of task. He does cover decently from what I've seen. It's just the fact that, again, he's still is trying to translate some sort of things to really become a complete player. But I like what I saw from him last year. Eric Wilson's a really quality backup, again, despite slowing down and really not nearly being as fast is probably the best way to put it, quick to the play that he might have been a couple years ago. Kobe King, oof. And then you got Dorian Massey, who's not the greatest. But again, they say Kobe King, oof, is because, yeah. He didn't have a great first preseason game. Anyway, though, Kobe King, again, there's good things with him. Anyway, though, for this linebacking core, I like it a lot. I'm going to give them a B+. It's just, again, Ivan Pace hasn't really put it all together just yet. So until he does that, I can't really give him much higher of a grade there. That's going to be 27 points. And then we move over to the pass rush. It is one of the more fun groups to talk about in the league. Jonathan Grenard was probably the most consistent guy in terms of pressure statistically in the entire NFL last season. Not an amazing run defender, but who cares when you're getting pressure at the rate he does? He is a true speed rusher who has a very, very, very good bull rush. And again, that combination is really hard to stop, and that's why he gets so much pressure, alongside a guy like Andrew Van Ginkel, who feasted last year as well. But he is a truly elite edge rusher, and a lot of people haven't really realized it yet. But again, if he does the same thing, again, I don't really think he needs to prove anything. He was that good last year. Andrew Van Ginkel, we've not seen this sort of rise in level of play as an actual edge rusher in who knows how long. He had a lot of issues as kind of like a scrub. No, he wasn't a scrub. But there were a lot of issues with how he played with the Dolphins. They couldn't find a true role for him. But since coming, again, outside of, I'd probably say 2023 with the Dolphins, something kind of clicked. And then last year, it just went bonkers. He's a guy who can play in a lot of different spots. He's going to be a very, very, very responsible run defender. And as an edge rusher, he's really developed 3 or 4 moves for a guy who really didn't have much there just a couple of years ago. And it's an amazing, again, rise for him there. Gabriel Murphy, I hope he can turn into something, but his first step just isn't really doing that for me, and that's where I think he will be able to find success, despite, again, still working on that. Dallas Turner, really rough rookie season, but again, with the talent he has and the fact he's the most athletic player on this entire defense, that's got to give. Something's got to happen there. Tyler Beatty, oof, yeah. Just no. He's slow. That's the best way to put it. He doesn't really look like he's gonna get much happen, but he's pretty strong. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe makes his team. With that said, though, I like the edge rushers a lot. I'm gonna probably give them an A- as a pass rush group. There's a lot of upside here, but the fact that guys are coming off of injury, and I do not expect Andrew Van Ginkel to put up the pressure rate he did last year. It's just not gonna happen. That's why it's there. But it's a very, very, very good group. And they deserve a lot of praise. 40 points there. Time for this secondary. Moving into the Vikings secondary, it's a group that has kind of got shoved around at least a little bit with Cam Bynum leaving. But outside of that, guys, this is definitely a group, especially, again, we'll talk about corner in a second, that has a lot of good things going for him. Now let's get into cornerback. Isaiah Rodgers really was never a guy that I'd see really projecting as a true starting corner. But last year with the Eagles in a back-up role, he proved he can play man-to-man decently enough where you can definitely start him because of the fact that he is so fast and has very good awareness in zone coverage. I just need to see him actually play on the boundary consistently because we haven't really seen that just yet because, again, there were a lot of issues with him in the Colts. Opposite him is Byron Murphy Jr., who is a very savvy player. He's never going to be a guy going to really call anything more than a really good player just because of the fact that he will never put up the most insane numbers. I'm not talking about volume, interception stuff, but we're talking about coverage rating against and maybe some of those advanced metrics. They just don't really favor him with the way he plays. And even on film, there are times when the separation just is too much there. But again, we're talking about it's not really worth the fact that he's had 9 interceptions the past 2 seasons, and he's a very, very good playmaker. And again, also very, very good against the run, which I think is a very underrated part of this game. Really solid guy. I definitely consider him a number 1 corner for sure. Jeff Okudah, again, he's going to bounce around. He's going to do his thing. He's not the most explosive. He's going to give up plays. There are times where he does look like a solid player, which at this point in his career is really all you want. Mekhi Blackmon moving into the slot now. If this loads, that would be awesome. The biggest issues I have with him is he just doesn't really seem to react super naturally. Again, last year the injury was a big issue. Again, with the Vikings in 2023, he wasn't my favorite player, but he's still a guy, again, kind of in like, I won't call it a prove it year, but definitely like a sort of like what do you got sort of thing. I think he'll be able to do something with it because he's a very fluid player. Again, he's just not natural to reacting to a play, which I think is just something that is going to have to change if he's going to really be successful. Tavir Thomas, he'll give you good play at times, but again, he's just not really a true like starting cornerback either. So that's what you get there. The depth is definitely interesting here, but overall, this cornerback room is okay. I'll probably give them a B-, just because Mekhi Blackman's coming off a bad injury. Isaiah Rodgers is okay, and they got Byron Murphy, who I think is a reliable player. And then depth, that could be better, but you can definitely work with it. 14 points there, safety time. It's a very fun group. Joshua, I guess, Metellus, is the most versatile player in the entire NFL on defense. He can do anything you want him to. There are plays where he's an edge rusher. It's crazy. Not really as much as we saw in 2023. But last year with the Vikings, he was very good. I get in coverage, he's not the most fantastic, but with what he can give you everywhere else, it really doesn't matter. Theo Jackson was very good last year. Jay Ward, not so much, but at the same time, and he was better than Lewis Seen, so I guess that's something. Jay Ward's a guy that I'm pretty decent with. And Harrison Smith defies the law of father time as he continues to just put up solid season after solid season. Again, he's lost like probably 5 steps at this point, but with his wisdom and his unmatched instincts, he is still a guy you got to start every single day, and it's not even close. For that reason, or every game. Safety, I'm going to give them a B. You know what? B+. It's fair. They were really good last year. Harrison Smith at some point isn't going to be a great player anymore, or a decent player anymore, but again, with Joshua Metellus doing what he's able to, I think it's we'll stick it at a B+. I actually like this group. There's just a lot of ceiling with it, and the fact that, again, a guy like Brian Flores puts a lot of pressure on these guys, and they're still able to perform really well, I think is very impressive. 24 points. 124, my bad, for this defense. That's going to put them in the B tier, which I think is fair because it's a good group overall. I mean, there's really no issues with it outside the fact that some guys might not be in the best situations, at least as of right now. Anyway, though, time for some other things before we figure out the overall roster grade is. All right, looking at the Vikings special team unit, again, we saw Will Reichard last year have a very strong rookie season. Again, maybe tapered off towards the end of the year. But, yeah, Will Reichard is a solid kicker. Ryan Wright's always been a good punter. Again, the injury was a little bit of a concern last year, but outside of that, he was fine. The returners, they're fast. I know that. And then Andrew DePola has been a solid long snapper for a long time. This Vikings special team unit has not really been something that I'm really looking forward to watch too much, but they've always been solid, at least as of recently. So we're gonna say a B grade there. They were pretty competent last year. Moving over to the depth, quarterback depth, I'd give a B-. I don't think Sam Howell at least gives them some sort of ceiling there. But at the same time, it's like who knows. Running back depth, just because of how good Jordan Mason is, I have to give them an A, a backup. For depth there, that's probably going to be a B+. Receiver depth is an F because they literally don't have any. No, it's an F. Yeah, it has to be an F, right? I mean, can it really be an F, though? Because, like, even if Justin Jefferson gets injured, it's like, it's not the end of the world. Like, we saw what happened in 2023. They were able to get through it. So, for that reason, the fact that Jalen Nailor, I think, is at least proven enough where, like, yes, again, they don't have another fourth receiver. I think a D-, I think, is plausible there. But they're still going to probably get a C+ so far. Tight end depth, I give a B, so we're probably still at a C+. O-line depth, I give a B, so we'll say a B- for this offense. Really, the only issue is the fact, again, we know, like, the freaking receiving, there's no depth. Defensively, linebacker D-line depth is a C. Linebacker depth is a B+, so we're probably at a B there. Pass rush depth, I'd give a B-, so we're definitely sticking at a B-. Cornerback depth, I'd give a B-. And then I'd probably say a B there. So honestly, I'd say a B and a B-. We're gonna say a B- for the depth of the Vikings. I think that's pretty. Again, outside of receiver, this team doesn't really have an issue with depth. And again, even then, that might be, like I said, the way situationally for this team, I don't think receiver depth is the biggest issue. Like for a lot of other teams, it could be, but for this team, not really something I'm too stressed about. So B- for depth there. Identity. It's probably one of the more uncertain teams in the league just because, again, we don't know what's going on at quarterback. Kevin O'Connell, though, will make this offense work some way or another just because that's how good of a coach he is. But defensively, there are going to be games where they give up big plays. It's just going to happen. But the fact, again, that the straw hasn't broken from the camel's back yet with the secondary is really impressive. And I think Brian Flores is kind of just doing stuff with that. For that reason, I'm going to give their depth a B-. I like, their identity a B- because I like where this team's going. Just the uncertainty at quarterback is never something that you want to have. So for that reason, that's going to be 35 points, and then we'll figure out the overall roster now. All right, adding the numbers up here, that's 8 plus 28 plus 35 plus 124 plus, what did we get for this? 112. 307 points for a very strong roster. There aren't too many complaints I have about it, other than the fact that this quarterback position isn't the greatest, and they don't have too many positions on defense that are true difference makers. But anyway, it's one of the stronger rosters in football. I'm not saying it's like a top 5 roster per se, but with what they got outside of quarterback, with everything else they have, I think it's a very good roster. Vikings fans, you should be pretty happy with this. Outside the fact that, again, the quarterback position, I guess. But I'm very interested to see what they do in week 1. And until then, good luck, Vikings. And last team coming up pretty soon.
Ryan rolling, looking, just going to throw it deep for Jones. Double coverage. Oh, what a catch! Touchdown! Jones, ridiculous.